Nancy, is what we saw in Tesla's stock yesterday, Thursday, the drop in 14%, is it the market betting against Musk himself as opposed to whatever they feel about the long-term thesis of Tesla?
I don't know, Ed. Thanks for having me. I think part of what we saw yesterday is what we always see in the short term, and that is that the algorithms read the headlines, then the shorts jump in, and this is the stock and the guy that everyone loves to short. So, I mean, I'm not saying I think this was well advised, what Elon did, but I do think the fundamentals ultimately will trump this issue, if you will, no pun. And that's important because this might be a great entry point. We had, we'd bought in, added again to our holdings on March 10th, and I think the stock was trading about 240. That looked really smart until yesterday. But that said, I think you do want to add it in the volatile periods because Musk has a habit of teetering on the edge of destruction and then pulling himself back and in the nick of time. He has said himself he's wired for war, and he often shoots himself in the foot. And clearly, he's not wrong about that.
The shooting in the foot, how prolific could that get in terms of getting robo-taxis and a cybercab on the road and implicating that long-term thesis that so many people hold?
Yeah, I don't think it will. I mean, Caroline, I don't know, but because President Trump's equally unpredictable. I was reading a story about one of his previous advisors who had given him all the judicial nominees in his first term, and he called him a sleazebag who hates America. So he has a habit too of embracing people and then disengaging, and not only disengaging, but saying some pretty rough things about him. So, but that said, I do think that what the administration understands is they do need productivity-driven growth to make this tax bill work, and a good portion of that is pointed at Elon Musk and his efforts and initiatives, including robotaxi. I expect that next week, after the robotaxi announcement, unless something ridiculous happens, that we will be talking about something else as it relates to Tesla.
What's interesting is we're talking about something else that relates to Elon. We're going to talk more about the space part of the equation later in the show, Nancy. But it's interesting that there's some debt being shopped by Morgan Stanley right now for XAI. And well, it went on for sale basically yesterday. We wonder what the sentiment is like in terms of shift. Would you want to be adding at this point? You said maybe it's smart, but would you want to be adding exposure to all things Elon at this moment?
So we have a pretty full position, and there's a reason this stock is not in our 12 best ideas portfolio, Caroline, because it is inherently volatile, and a lot of it has to do with Elon. So I would say if you don't own it, and we have some clients who have asked us to buy positions for them today, which we will do in their non-managed accounts. But effectively, I'm going to wait, and if we see what we need to see next week and the stock doesn't bounce, then we may actually add to it just discreetly, not in a big way, because it's a 4% position, or it was yesterday, so call it 3.5 today, and that's about as much as we want to own of this stock in our growth portfolio.
Let's go back to robotaxi. This is the thesis from Bloomberg Intelligence, our in-house analysts, about what the events of the last 24 hours mean. And they argue specifically that it will result in a protracted rollout of robotaxi, because the whole trade was based on the idea that Musk's proximity to the president would result in favorable legislation or federal level policy that would help robotaxi. Where do you stand on that, Nancy?
Yeah, and I think that's the risk. And that's one of the reasons that we're not jumping in here. The regulatory environment, but I would also point out, all the tech CEOs sort of did their homage to the administration and to the president in particular, and it hasn't really resulted in much good news from a regulatory standpoint. In fact, you could argue it's resulted in none. Apple, Google, Meta. So I think that I'm hopeful that cooler heads will prevail, that the technology will be seen for what it is. And if you look out, the robotaxi would be the lowest cost per mile provider. Well, there's only two, Waymo, and it comes in significantly below. And so I think there's a lot of reasons to support this technology. But these are two unique individuals.
I think it's important to point out that actually Musk was quite consistent over a number of months that he would be fine if EV subsidies were killed or cut.
Yeah.
He said it in July, he said it in December, he said it more recently, and Trump said it at March cabinet meeting. Does that factor in for you, his position on that?
Yeah, yes. I mean, I thought that was disingenuous of the president yesterday to say that he saw that the EV mandates were gone, and that's what, drove him crazy. I think that was the direct quote. He has been consistent. I agree with his position on that. It supports the weaker manufacturers. It doesn't necessarily support the industry leader. The Tesla buyer is really not influenced by the mandate, and most don't qualify because of the income limitation. So I think Elon is a smart businessman, and what really frustrated him was the fact that the government is not run like a business. So you make you have the logical discussions, and then the government goes on this giant, snowball rolling down a hill. So I'm hopeful that we will see things settle down, and that next week I'm hoping we'll be talking about Robotaxi and how amazing it is. I live in Waymo land. It's pretty exciting what's going on, and what Amazon is doing with robots delivering packages. They could be getting out of a Robotaxi for all I know.
Let's just go to sentiment on buying a Tesla, though, Nancy, because this, I think, is what's caught many off guard. Europeans are incredibly angry about some of the political leanings that Elon Musk has had, and it's affected sales, it would seem. It hasn't just been the production halt and the wait for a new Model Y. We're seeing that borne out in May numbers. So will this implicate who buys Teslas going forward?
That's a great question, Caroline. What's interesting is that BYD has been taken to task by the Communist Party for lowering prices, and because they're in a deflationary environment. And so I find that super interesting. Will that open up some space for Tesla again in China? It could. I mean, they've called it rat race competition, at the Communist Party calling out the CEO. So we may see another instance where the public market is invaded by the Communist Party, and that may help. But I don't think people are going to get over this soon. I think they will eventually get over it. But he needs to dial down the rhetoric and the drama and get back to the business of, Optimus and Robotaxi and full self-driving. That is what people own the stock for, and for his brilliance and genius, of course, but not for the histrionics.
And therefore, do you think you're going to get enough of his attention, particularly on the humanoid robot side of the equation?
I do. I mean, what Tesla has said is that they're going to have thousands in their factories coming up. That would be a good thing, Caroline, because, we have as much as the president talks about bringing manufacturing back to America, we have 500,000 manufacturing jobs that have gone unfilled. It's hard to turn that one around when for years we were shrinking the manufacturing base. The solution is robots, not across the board, but in a good instance, and they are a very productive way of producing things. So just as AI is writing AI code, I think the robots will build the robots, and we'll see manufacturing plants use more and more robotics. That's a good thing, and I think Tesla will be at the center of that,
right,
as well as energy storage.
If anything's come out of the events of the last 24 hours, it's to remind us of the deficit. Nancy, listen to this.
We can debate, he didn't get his trillion, he got probably 100 billion or so in terms of cuts, but he worked, he was part of Doge. It was right after the inauguration, we had Doge. So I think some of this is, as he's looking at this one big beautiful bill, seeing that really the tax cuts are temporary. So is Musk trying to highlight the deficit issue again?
Remember, this was all about the big beautiful bill. It's where it started. Is Musk putting the emphasis back on the deficit helpful, Nancy?
I actually think it is, Ed. I think a lot of what he's done has changed the narrative. Whether you support Doge or not, it's shined a light on the profligate spending in Washington. And I think what most Americans took away, and just like if you just start with Harvard, why is the government giving an educational institution that has endowment, sorry, of, $14 billion, whatever it is. Why are we giving them hundreds of millions of dollars every year? Those are good debates to have. There may be a very good reason, but I don't think most people think that the government is efficient with their tax dollars. And so to start that debate, then to see it, do the work, see it unwound really with this tax bill. Which is long on spending. I don't like it either. I don't think it's a very good bill. I think that they could have done better. They obviously don't think they could have. I'm not there, but I think that's really what he's focusing on, and that's important. $37 trillion is debt is nothing short of suicidal, in my view.